The morning air was icy, cutting sharply at Jason Carter's face as he neared the courthouse steps. Each step felt heavier than the one before. His legs weighed down by a mix of dread and nervousness. His hands gripped the straps of his old backpack tightly, as though it was the only thing keeping him together. His mother, Linda, walked silently by his side, her face pale and strained, while his little sister, Lily, clung to her stuffed rabbit. At just 10 years old, Lily couldn't fully grasp the seriousness of the situation, but she could sense her brother's unease. "Jason," Linda spoke softly, breaking the oppressive silence. "Whatever happens today, remember, we're here for you. Always." Jason didn't respond immediately. He feared his voice might betray him. Instead, he nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat and fixing his gaze on the courthouse looming ahead like an impenetrable fortress. He'd never set foot in a courthouse before. Never been in trouble, not like this. At 17, Jason was the kind of teenager most parents admired. Quiet, respectful, and introverted. He spent his days sketching superheroes in his notebook, diving into science fiction novels, and playing with Lily in their modest backyard. But none of that seemed to matter now. To the prosecutor's office and the world. He was just a troublemaker, a vandal who disrespected the law. It all spiraled out of control so fast that Jason barely remembered how he ended up here. One moment, he was sneaking into the old abandoned warehouse near his neighborhood, trying to protect a stray dog that had taken refuge there. The next, he was being accused of defacing the property, spray painting walls, smashing windows, and trespassing. The warehouse's owner, a gruff man named Mr. Hargrove, wasted no time pressing charges. Inside the courthouse lobby, Jason's court-appointed lawyer, Miss Duval, waited for them. A tall woman in her 40s, with piercing eyes and a brisk, no-nonsense demeanor. She had only met Jason twice before but had already left an impression as someone competent and dependable. "Jason," she greeted with a nod, her tone calm yet commanding. "How are you holding up?" "I'm okay," Jason lied, his voice betraying none of the turmoil inside. Miss Duval studied him briefly before turning to Linda. "We'll tackle this one step at a time. The judge assigned is Malcolm Riley. He's tough but fair. The key is to be honest and respectful when you testify." Linda nodded, gripping Jason's arm for comfort. "We trust you, Miss Duval. Please. Just help them see Jason for who he really is. He's a good kid. He doesn't deserve this." Miss Duval offered a faint, understanding smile. "That's exactly what we're here to show." The courtroom was daunting, with its towering ceilings, polished wooden benches, and the commanding presence of Judge Riley overseeing everything. Jason felt small and out of place as he sat at the defendant's table. The prosecutor, Mr. Grant, was already there, flipping through a hefty folder of documents. He didn't so much as glance in Jason's direction, as though the case had already been decided. "All rise," the bailiff called out, and the room stood as Judge Riley entered. Tall and stern, with silver hair and eyes that seemed to pierce through people. He took his seat. "You may be seated," the judge announced, his deep voice resonating through the room. Adjusting his glasses, he opened the file before him. "This is the case of the state versus Jason Carter. The charges include trespassing and vandalism. How does the defendant plead?" Jason glanced at Miss Duval, who gave him a subtle nod. Drawing a deep breath, he stood. "Not guilty, Your Honor." Judge Riley raised an eyebrow, his interest piqued. "Not guilty. Yet you admit to being on the property in question." "Yes, Your Honor," Jason responded, his voice steady despite the rapid thudding of his heart. "But I wasn't there to cause harm. I was trying to help." "Help?" the judge echoed, leaning forward with curiosity. "Explain." Jason hesitated, his eyes flicking to Miss Duval, who motioned for him to proceed. Gathering his courage, he took another deep breath and began. "There's a stray dog living in the warehouse," Jason explained, his words tumbling out in a rush. "She had puppies a few weeks ago and they were starving. I've been bringing them food and water, trying to take care of them. The warehouse is in terrible shape. Holes in the walls, broken windows. I used some scrap wood I found to cover the windows and block out the wind. I didn't mean to trespass. I just didn't know what else to do. For a moment, the room was utterly silent. Even the prosecutor seemed briefly taken aback by Jason's account. Judge Riley scrutinized him, his sharp gaze unwavering. "So, what you're telling me," the judge began, "is that you entered private property without authorization, but your intent was to care for stray animals?" "Yes, Your Honor," Jason replied earnestly. "And the graffiti," the prosecutor cut in, his tone sharp and pointed. "The spray paint found at the scene. How do you explain that?" "I didn't do it," Jason said firmly, turning to face the prosecutor directly. "I don't even own spray paint. Someone else must have done that, but it wasn't me." Miss Duval stood, her expression calm yet resolute. "Your Honor, I have evidence to corroborate my client's claims. I'd like to submit photographs taken at the warehouse, along with statements from neighbors who saw Jason bringing food and supplies to the animals over several weeks." The judge gave a curt nod, signaling for the bailiff to retrieve the evidence. He carefully examined the photographs, his face betraying no emotion. One image showed a golden retriever curled protectively around her litter, the tiny puppies barely visible under a ragged blanket. Another picture captured Jason crouching beside a makeshift water bowl, his face etched with worry and care. After what felt like an eternity, Judge Riley set the photos aside and turned his attention back to Jason. "This is certainly compelling," he said thoughtfully. Then, after a measured pause, he added, "Mr. Carter, while your intentions may have been noble, the fact remains. You broke the law. Trespassing is a serious offense," Judge Riley said firmly, his voice echoing in the quiet courtroom. "Private property must be respected." Jason's heart sank, his chest tightening with fear. He felt Linda's reassuring hand on his shoulder, a silent reminder that he wasn't alone. The judge's tone softened slightly as he continued, "However, I also believe in second chances. Considering the circumstances and the compassion you've demonstrated, I'm inclined to dismiss the charges, on the condition that you complete 50 hours of community service at the local animal shelter. Additionally, I will ensure the stray dog and her puppies are taken in by the shelter and receive proper care." Jason's relief was instant and overwhelming. "Thank you, Your Honor," he said, his voice shaking with gratitude. Judge Riley offered him a rare, faint smile. "You're welcome, Mr. Carter. Consider this a lesson. Next time, seek the proper channels and ask for help before taking matters into your own hands." "Yes, Your Honor," Jason replied earnestly. After the hearing, Jason stepped outside into the bright afternoon sun, feeling lighter than he had in weeks. Linda pulled him into a tight hug, her tears soaking into his shirt. "You did it, Jason," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm so proud of you." "Thanks, Mom," Jason murmured, hugging her back tightly. Lily grinned up at him, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "You're like a real-life superhero, Jace. Saving puppies and everything." Jason chuckled, ruffling her hair. "Not quite, but I'll take it. Thanks, kiddo." The following weeks were a whirlwind of new experiences. Jason spent his afternoons at the animal shelter, cleaning kennels, feeding animals, and learning the ins and outs of proper care. He quickly grew attached to the golden retriever and her puppies, who were thriving under the shelter's attention. Word of Jason's actions spread through the community, turning whispers of scandal into admiration. Neighbors who had once judged him began visiting the shelter to donate supplies or adopt animals. Even Jason's school recognized his efforts, featuring him in their monthly newsletter and praising his dedication to animal welfare. Through it all, Jason learned profound lessons about responsibility, compassion, and the importance of doing the right thing, even when it wasn't easy. One evening, he watched as the golden retriever and her puppies were adopted by a kind, loving family. A deep sense of fulfillment washed over him. He hadn't just saved them. He'd given them a chance at a better life. For the first time in a long time, Jason felt like he was on the right path. As he walked home that evening, the setting sun bathing the neighborhood in a warm golden glow, he knew he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring tales of hope, humanity, and redemption.